Hey, what's up? And welcome to this part 2 of creating a magic ball After Effects. My name is Mr. Popo and we are Popo. This is the result that we created for last time on part 1. We created the ball, created the movement, created a bit of the background elements. In this final part, we'll see how we can fix the color in the background, make it a bit darker, how we can add the shadow trail sweep, and a lot of effects to add into the shadow and to the background to make things pop out a little bit more. All right, let's get right into it. All right, first thing first, let's try to make this slightly darker. So I'm just gonna go into the shape layer and I wanna explain something. When you create a solid, you basically just make a layer that is exactly the same size of your composition. In the same way, you can actually go faster. You know, when you start using After Effects a lot more, you start looking for things that you can do really fast and that you can maybe change to a better. Normally, what I like to do is not create a new solid, but what I like to do is do this. Double click. So what does this mean? When you double click the shape layer here tool, After Effects will create automatically a shape layer at exactly the same ratio of your composition. Again, if you heard me well, I said ratio. I did not say size of your screen. The reason is because this is the best case scenario. A video happens to be square, so when you create a square, it's gonna fill it. But if I try to go, for example, to an ellipse and double click, it's gonna try to fill the ratio. It's not gonna fill the whole screen. It's gonna try to fill the ratio of the screen. So it's just trying to go to fill that sphere, or that shape layer will try to fill the width and the height. Okay, it will not try to completely fill it. So in the same way, if I try to go to, let's just go here, polygon, and you try, so now you get to see it. So if I try now to go to a rectangle, double click, I'm gonna have exactly the ratio, the size of my composition, which is really good. And the reason why I like to do this, it's because sometimes you want to create this, right? This background, but then you want to do something funky about it. You don't want to create a lot of solids and masks and stuff like that. You want to create a background that is kind of funky. So I can just go, you know, and now I have a solid layer with stuff like this, you know? So this is why this is important. So again, I'm gonna go and double click here. I'm gonna go and change a bit the values to make the background a little bit darker. So I'm gonna go with a darker, slightly bluish color like this. Okay. Once I do that, I'm just gonna go and put this below the sphere. Well, now I don't see anything. Great, because that's the intention. But first, I'm gonna call this darken gray. And I'm gonna call this wavy background. So here in darken, I'm gonna go and try to take this opacity to 45%. There we go. Okay, so extremely bright, darkened. So it's all up to you at this point. How do you feel like you want to control this? So for example, now with the colors that I've done, I feel like I just want to go with 23%. Okay. And that will make it. The reason why we're doing this darker background, you need to understand why we're doing it. We're doing it because everything is so bright, it's going to be really hard to focus on the sphere. So that is the reason why we do vignette, or why we darken backgrounds. It's because we want to pop out the element that we want the viewer to focus on. Okay, so we created a darkened background. Now, what can we do next? Let's create the echo, the trail. And as I said, we're going to create an echo. So to do this is really simple. Let's just focus here. I'm going to duplicate this and let's just focus on this one. I'm going to call this trail main, because we're going to add a lot of things. So in the trail main, what do we have? We have exactly the same thing, the same ball, nothing really special, but we're going to add a lot of new stuff. So I'm just going to go here into the ball and I'm going to create an effect called echo. An effect called echo, what it does is it repeats whatever layer you have here. So for example, if I have the number of echoes here, I go to something like 10, then my ball is going to be repeated 10 times, or my object or my video is going to be repeated 10 times. So now I have this. So now you start to get the gist of it, like how does this really work? And if I put the ball, the main ball, in front of it, you're going to see what I mean. Okay? Cool. So this is why it's really important that you finish everything you want to do on the main ball and then you create a trail. Trails are supposed to be always the last thing you do in your animation. So now that we got this, let's just do a little bit of changes here. One of the first things that you're going to realize is the intensity here, starting intensity. The intensity is really too bright. Okay, and we wish if we can have a little bit more decay here between two balls, because the two balls are like one ball after another are a little bit too close to each other and stuff like that. I think I'm gonna increase here the number of balls because I want to have the trail a little bit bigger. And the reason I did that is because when I'm gonna start decaying the opacity here, as you can see here, things are gonna be lost. And I'm just gonna go and decay this even more. So that's why it is really important that I had kind of a bit more, what do we call this? Trails, echoes. Another thing you can also play with is the how one echo is gonna look on top of another. So you have this, you got that, you got a normal screen, you have the ad here, composite in the back, composite in the front, blend them all together. So we're just gonna go with maximum now because I don't really want to change how they look, because we already have a curve here, so I don't think I really want to, you know, intensify how they look. So yeah, but again, it's all up to you. So now that we did this, it's good, but it's not so beautiful. And to make it beautiful, we're just gonna add a very small effect called we're just gonna select this and I'm gonna call in fast box blur. Again, if you don't have this window, you can just go to effects and preset, call this fast box blur. Okay, and I'm just gonna put it on the trail main. Great. Why I'm doing this? It's because if I actually get to blur these echoes, it's gonna be a trail. And ta-da, that's it. Another rule I can add, I can give you like small tips about this. By the way, I'm just gonna go to 15. The reason why I'm taking it down a bit is because I don't want it to go outside of the sphere here. You know, I want it to just be a trail of the sphere. Now, the main issue that I have with this, it's all good and beautiful, but the problem is, you see at the beginning I see it, but I have no motion. Look at this. You see, I have that thing still around it. You see? I wish if I could just not have this, but only have this when I accelerate. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna do an opacity here where it is heavy, like here. And then here, I'm gonna take the opacity down. So as we ramp up on speed, you see, now we see it. And then as we're going out, I'm just gonna look at where the position again is. Where is it? Where is she? Okay, so I'm just gonna turn this down. I'm just gonna go somewhere. Yeah, there we go. Actually, this works perfectly. What the hell? All right. Cool. So we don't see it, we see it. And then when we're ramping down, there should be no trail. Obviously, physics. Okay? Great. All right, so that's how we create a trail. Pretty fast, isn't it? Great. Now let's add more elements into the background before we add more details into the trail. So for this one, we're gonna create a new composition. I'm gonna call this BG element, and I'm gonna make it 1920 by 1080, 25 to 30, and doesn't matter. Actually, I could just go to 6. Cool. Now, what are we gonna do? I'm just gonna go and create one stroke in the middle. So I don't want to have the fill. I only want to have the stroke. I'm just gonna go like 4. The color does not matter because we can change the color later on. So I'm just gonna make a stroke like this. Okay. So to do the taper now, thanks to After Effects new version, we have a taper option. So you can actually play with the here tapering this. So you can play with that. And so I'm just gonna assume maybe you don't have an After Effect that has taper. So I'm just gonna show you how to do tapering if you don't have After Effects and you don't want to use plugins like 3D Stroke. To do the tapering in After Effects, all you have to do is just select your mask, select shape layer, select the mask, not shape layer, select the mask. You can go into your ellipse tool, for example, and just make an ellipse. So if you look at it now, it's still stroke. But then if you go to the ellipse and then you try to feather it, then you're having a tapered stroke. Okay, so that's how we used to do it in the old ways, but now in After Effects you have that in. So now that we do that, what I'm gonna do now is I'll try to create some colors here. And I'm just gonna go to ramp, obviously. And I'm just gonna make one color here, could make another color here. I'm just gonna go get this color, then I'm gonna go and get this color. Cool, there we go. I'm gonna create now the background behind. So to do this, I'm just gonna go and create a rectangle. I don't want a stroke, but I want a gradient. I want a gradient fill here. So I'm just gonna go make something like this, and I have 2 gradients, so I'm just gonna go and try to change that. So I'm gonna go inside, gradient fill. Now I can play with my gradient. I've got this 2 here, so I'm just gonna go do this one here, do this one here, okay? Now I can go and edit the gradient. So when it comes to this gradient specifically, I'm gonna need 3 colors. Just like what we the kind of colors that we did before. So one is like this. Yeah, this one was supposed to be this one here. Okay, cool. So one is like this. So I'm just copying colors that are already done. One is like this, and I believe this one is just slightly changed like that. Cool. All right. Now what I'm gonna do, I'm just gonna go and fast box blur again. Fast box blur because it's beautiful, and yeah, it's beautiful and it's pretty strong. I don't need to go to 500, 700 on Gaussian blur to just get this kind of blur. So that's why I use fast box blur. And also because fast box blur simulates a blur, is kind of like dreamy. So now I'm selecting the mask for this shape layer, and I'm just trying to make a bit of a selection that is not normal. Perfect. And could just feather the selection. I could actually just go something like this. Great. Cool. We got this. Now if I get to my BG element, I'm just gonna put it on top of this one. And so what do we have? I'm just gonna go here to add. So basically what do we have? We have that there. Great, but not exactly why I want to use it. So I'm just gonna go rotate it. I'm just gonna go put it somewhere here. Just scale it a bit. Scale it a little bit more. So I'm just gonna put it somewhere here. So now what's gonna happen is I want to start animating this without having to animate it. So how are we going to do this? Again, we have wave warp, if you remember. So this is my wave warp. I have the sine Again, one of the things, we could just go something like this big, maybe, yeah. And then we're gonna make this really big, like this. Actually, even more, like that. Okay. So now what do we have? We have that animated. Hold on, let me just focus on that. So now we have that animated, but it's really fast, so we're just gonna slow it. Great. We're gonna do that all edge again. So again, it's flowing. That's great. Now I'm gonna add fastbox blur to just make it blend in with the background. So I'm just gonna go like 100. I'm just gonna go, yeah, something like that. Great. And repeat each pixel just in case I see something weird. Perfect. Great. Now I'm just gonna go duplicate this and make this screen, and we'll just make this scale back to its normal. So I'm just gonna go here and reset it, and we'll just try to put it somewhere here. Great. All right, let's start making more details to the trail. So the first thing I'm gonna do, I'm gonna go and duplicate this one, and I'm just gonna solo it just so that we can focus on it. The first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna try to create that path again. So I'm just gonna go do an ellipse. I'll explain to you why I'm doing all this. I don't need the fill. I only need the stroke. I'm just gonna go something like 10 or 12. And I'm gonna make the shape where the sphere is going through. So I'm just gonna go something like the center, and hold Control Shift to make something like this. I'm gonna make it a little bit bigger because size matter. I'm gonna duplicate this, Control D, and I'm gonna try to scale it and make something like that. So I just want to have two sweeps going on. I don't really need to change that if I don't feel like it. I'm gonna change this to white just so that's to avoid all problems. Great. Now, so if I take this and I'll do an alpha matte, so what's gonna happen now? So basically I'll be able to see this trail whenever I see this shape layer. So it's like the shape layer now is being acted like a mask. So what happens if I blur this? Let's go. So if I blur this, I'm just gonna hide all the details so that you can focus on the result. So if I add more details like this, okay. So we're starting to get somewhere, but it's too straight. You see, there is no difference. So if I look at the motion now, it's if it's good for you, awesome. But for me, I don't think it's good for me. Okay. So what I did here was I added a little bit of differences, a little bit of randomness. Okay. So I'm gonna use a little bit of turbulence. So I'm gonna call this turbulent displace, and I'm just gonna add a little bit into this. So basically what this effect does, I'm just gonna take this off. Just so that you can understand. Basically what this effect does is just that it distorts, it basically just distorts your object, like if it's in water or something like that. So yeah, so that's why we use this. So we have this, we have that. We could actually just leave it just as it is, to be honest. Actually I don't need to. I'm doing this in the wrong place, to be honest. I was actually supposed to do them here. I mean this one. I was supposed to do this here. There we go. So now you can see that it's very ghosty. All right, so if we look at it with the trail, there we go. Oh, look at that. Look at that. That is ghosty, that is beautiful. All right, so that's what I like about After Effects. This gets me orgasms that I really need in my life. Okay, so now we have that effect that is added. I mean, in the same way actually, you could just duplicate this and you put this in front. So now you have things in front. But hey, this is exactly the same thing as this, so it's not really adding a lot of details. So what I could do, remember, what I could do here, if I bring this back again, I'm gonna double click to select, for example, this, and I could just change this like this, change a bit the stroke of it, because this is gonna be on top, and then duplicate, probably I'll just have to go inside and choose the first one and make it something smaller like that, and maybe change this to be like that, and I could even add more complexity if I want to the ones on top. And now this is going to be more different than this one, see? So yeah, let's go. So now I have in front and I have in the back, but never finish on the back. You never finish on the front, always finish on the back. So it's real life advice if you want to avoid problems. Okay, so we got this. We got a good trail. We could call this tutorial finished, but I'm just gonna add just a few little tricks if you wanna stay around. So to add even more details into this, what we could focus on, is add more trail magic. So what I'm gonna do now, I'm gonna create a new solid. I'm gonna call this stroke follow path, and I could just copy that mask position, but no, we could just make it actually ourselves. So I'm just gonna make sorry, I'm gonna make something like this. It doesn't matter because I'm gonna use an effect. I'm gonna call 3D stroke. So 3D stroke. So what's gonna happen is this effect is going to replace any mask with a stroke. The stroke is a little bit too big. That's exactly what she said. Great. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to go to taper, or I could go to overpath, not taper. I'll just go overpath. So now this whole thing is going to be full. Okay. But if I say I want the start to start like that, and then the end to start like that, that would be it. So all I have to do now is just make something like this. All right, and there is this one way, but actually the best way to do this is to actually go into taper and try to enable this. And now you get this. So, and this will have to follow your animation. So as you can see here, it actually follows, but on the other side you'll have to actually keyframe stuff. So what am I doing this? I'm gonna explain to you why. I'm just gonna close this. I'm gonna make this end 100%. Okay, I'm gonna put 2 keyframes. Now I'm just gonna focus on this so that I don't have to wait for rendering. I'm just gonna go, for example, like this. I'm gonna say, gonna hide that. Excuse me. Now I don't see anything. Oh yeah, because I can't see it. Cool. So now I'm gonna say that, for example, it's gonna end here. You know, you get the gist of it. So at this point, I'm gonna say that it's gonna be full. All right. But at the same time, I want this to be full as well. So what's gonna happen now? Nothing, because it's starting and it's ending in the same time. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna offset this a bit. And by the way, I'll take this and I'll do the same speed as the ball so that it really follows the ball. There you go. Great. Now what happened? Cool. The only thing that we need to do now is just put this behind the ball. So what do we have now? We have this thing following the ball. If it's a little bit too much for you, you can reduce the time of what do we call that? The end and the start. You know, you can just make that a little bit smaller. And another thing you could do here, better to flow with the kind of style that we created for the ball, you could add a little bit of fast box blur. Sorry, and yeah, there we go. So you get that. See that? There you go. So it just follows, and then you add some particles again following this direction, so it flows with it even way better. And remember again that everything that I teach you here, you could actually just apply it to itself. So now you get a different kind of flow to this. You could actually put this into screen or add as well. So that's could help. So yeah, I hope you guys really enjoyed this tutorial. There's a lot of tricks and tips that went into it. There is more stuff. If you want to learn even more and see more details about this, you can find the project in the description below. Again, my name is Mr. Popo, and we are Popo. Don't forget to hit that like button if you really like this tutorial, share it with your friends, and yeah, just subscribe to the channel for more content every single week. Thank you, and I'll see you on the next one.